All right, we've long known that while politicians on the left may talk about defunding the police, they spare no expense when it comes to their own personal safety. Now, this point was driven home last week when the U.S. House Sergeant at Arms announced plans to cover the cost of security upgrades to members' homes, including $10,000 for equipment and $150 a month for monitoring and maintenance. Now, this is being driven by those on the left who were the ones that were out there shouting, defund the police, and they were coddling the lawbreakers in 2020. Now, this is my take on this. When you see what took place in the summer of 2020, the lawlessness that was launched by the left all across America, and you had these left-leaning elected officials coddling these lawbreakers, now we see in many of these cities record homicide rates. And members of Congress now fearing the lawlessness. Well, joining me now to talk about this and more is the former acting Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who also served as the Attorney General for the state of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. Ken, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you, Tony, as always.
So, Ken, any irony here that we have these liberal members of Congress crying for more money to protect themselves when they were the ones coddling the lawbreakers back in the summer of 2020 when you were a part of the Homeland Security Department trying to protect these cities?
Oh, the irony is truly rich here, and the hypocrisy is legion, and they don't blink an eye at it, which is really quite amazing. In the summer of 2020, by the way, I agree with you on Pelosi with Taiwan, and might disagree 98% of the time. I say that because in the summer of 2020, I'll remind everyone, she was referring to the police who were protecting themselves and buildings and people against physical assaults, including commercial fireworks, lasers aimed at their eyes, shield-wielding and stick-wielding crowds, among other things. The Department of Homeland Security actually lost one of its security officers to an attack, gunfire attack, and another was injured very early in this whole process out in California. But it was Speaker Pelosi who referred to those police officers as stormtroopers at the time. They were the bad guys. And the current Vice President Harris at the time was bailing lawbreakers out of jail to get them back on the street faster and into the Soros street efforts to bring more violence to more cities across the country. And we knew and saw that they were traveling. I will tell you, one of the things that offends me so much about January 6th in terms of the FBI and the Department of Justice is where in the was all this effort for the 7 months beforehand? When we're a nation that doesn't speak against all political violence, then guess what you're going to get? More political violence. And the left-wing leaders across this country have bred that in this country. And we all have them to, quote, thank for that.
That is exactly my point, is that they have unleashed this on America by coddling the lawbreakers. As you pointed out, the current vice president bailing these lawless hooligans out of the Hooskow and putting them back on the streets. And so now this has come to their doors. It's come to their doorsteps. This is the problem. You cannot sustain a republic with a lawless population. And what happens, it escalates. And I think, and I've been very clear on this program, I disagree 100% with what happened on January the 6th with those who broke the law and went into the Capitol. I do not in any way condone that behavior. But these are people that were frustrated, I believe, many of them, by what they saw on the left, and so they partook in it too. That's the problem with mobs when we do not maintain law.
A different way to think about that same thing is, for 7 months, they watched all of the mouthpieces of society say political violence is okay when it's for the right reasons. The ends justify the means. Classic Alinsky type of mentality. And that was said over and over. We heard it from Chris Cuomo on CNN. We heard it from everybody on CNN. We heard it from MSNBC. We saw it all across print media. We were hearing it from not just Nancy Pelosi, but congressional leaders all across the left were saying this. And peaceful protesting, even with, by any definition, violence going on, but meanings of English words don't mean that much to them either. And those have come home to roost, along with their basic philosophy that the police are bad and so they should be defunded. Oh, except when they're protecting me. And,
right.
Now, therein lies the hypocrisy.
Now, this has been kind of years in the making, though. When you mentioned George Soros and his efforts on the streets. You know, George Soros has been working quietly in cities across the nation to elect these prosecutors that won't prosecute, DAs that will not do their job. And so what you have is you have these cities now, New Orleans, Birmingham, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Cleveland, Rochester, New York, Atlanta, all these cities, and these are ones in the South now where he's influenced
LA, Chicago, some huge cities are suffering from this.
Yeah, we have the highest murder rates in history that are going on, in recorded history. And so this is all a part of not enforcing the law. And now it's spilling over. My concern, Ken Cuccinelli, is that if this is not contained and dealt with soon, that we could be on the verge of anarchy.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, that the most basic element of a society, a constitutional republic society, is the rule of law. And when people are elected for the job of enforcing the law on a platform of I won't enforce the law, that is an anarchy outcome. Now, I will say this, even in wildly liberal San Francisco, they deposed their Soros prosecutor because of the destruction and the misery that he brought to that community, and it wasn't a close call. So, as so often happens, the liberals sound swell on the stump, but when you actually implement their philosophy, it is utterly destructive of societies and human lives, innocent human lives, elevating the criminal over the crime victim, which is exactly what Soros is doing. And I think it's quite intentional. He wants the destruction and anarchy on the path to communism that he so admires.
But to your point, Ken Cuccinelli, the citizens are pushing back when they have an opportunity at the ballot box. And I believe that as this crime rate rises, the issue of crime and security will rise in the list of concerns when voters go to the polls this November. Ken, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to talk with you, and appreciate you joining us today.
God bless. Have a great one, Tony. Thanks for having me.